for Omega, my maker.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel, a channel that is all about Christ. If you're new here, thank you so much for joining us. But if you're stopping by, please consider subscribing and joining this family. But if you're part of the family, you already know I love and appreciate you. Thank you so much for coming back. So today I want to keep this short. I just want to kind of vent a little bit and then we close this video. So today I wanted us to talk about the fear that is attached to leaving a church. So let's get right into it. Okay, so can we talk about the fear of leaving a church? Well, there are a lot of things that are attached to that fear, that cause that fear to leaving a church. But I want to start here. Everyone has a right to choose ibandla abafuna ukukhonza kulo. You have all the right. It is up to you. This is your faith. This is your relationship with God. This is your salvation. This is your journey. You have the right to choose a church you want to fellowship in, you want to fully commit in. No one has the right to choose for you. That is why no one has the right to choose for you also when you leave. So there's this thing, like I've heard so many names people call people who leave churches. I've left churches. I mean, when I commit to a church for certain reasons. There are things that have made me to commit to that church. There are things that have made me to say, you know what, I want this church to be my home. And when those things are not there anymore, why am I staying? But because it's not easy to leave a church first, because you still love this church and you have committed yourself in this church, but when you no longer feel like it's a home, when you no longer feel like your spirit is growing, when you no longer feel like I'm benefiting anything from this church, you then live. But because you can't explain to everyone with him, because you can't explain to everyone, because of these reasons, people always judge you. Like sometimes it just shocks me how we act as Christians, because people are gonna have, like, it's gonna be like you guys have beef. It's gonna be like you guys need Luila because you've left that church. When you bump into a bazalandabo konzanabo and you're like, ah, ninjani. So we're like, it's like you're now an enemy, and it's just like, and in that church, you don't know how I ended up committing myself in that church. You don't know what were the reasons for me to commit in that church. And you don't know why I left. So why are you giving me all this drama and all this beef now that I've left? Like, I don't know if I'm explaining this correctly, but I'm just like, I don't understand. I don't understand the beef that follows after I've left the church. I don't understand the beef that, and people act like they are the pastor of the church, even though the pastor of the church doesn't necessarily have the right to have beef with me or feel some type of way when I've left his church. But at least he's the founder, he's the one. It gives them joy ukubona abantu beze ebandleni, ukubona abantu in number of people growing in the church. So you can understand for him, because it really does hurt him when umzalwane ahamba, especially if you leave and you don't say anything. So you totally understand for the pastor ukuthi afeel some type of way, right? But abazalwane, they will make sure you feel ukuthi abasakuthandi, like when you left their church. And I have a lot to say about this. What I want to emphasize first is that you have the right to leave a church and you have your reasons. I don't want this fear to make you stay in a church that no longer serves you, a church that no longer benefits your spiritual growth, a church that no longer gives you anything. Because when you commit to a church, as much as you are serving also, but the church needs to give you something back, spiritual growth, feeling like you have a family. But if you don't feel all those things, you have the right to leave that church. It is within your right to leave that church. And you don't necessarily need to tell anyone why you leave in that church, because most of the time when you're about to leave a church, it's the reasons for leaving, they're a little bit tricky. So you can't also even tell the pastor, I feel like I don't feel at home, or I feel like your church is no longer benefiting me spiritually. It's not an easy thing to say. So just leave peacefully and go. But I want to emphasize that you have the right to leave. You can leave. No one can stop you. This is not a cult. You can leave. If you feel like the church that you are in no longer helps you anyway, in fact it just drains you, or you are giving more to the church than what the church is giving back to you, you can leave. You can leave. Ebandleni, we're supposed to both benefit. As much as nami I need to serve ebandleni, I need to make sure ukuthi umsebenzi kaNkulunkulu flows with the gift that he has given me. I need to commit when there are services I need to attend so that ibandla functions. But I also need something from the church. I need to grow spiritually. I need to see myself. Good, how I was there, now I'm here. I didn't believe this, now I believe this. I was struggling there, now I'm help here. I need to see the church showing up for me when I have troubles. I need to see the church praying for me. I need to see this. I need to. When you don't see all those things in a church that you have committed yourself to, you can live. You can live. And like I'm saying, it's up to you whether you want to explain or you just want to leave. But it's a little difficult to explain why you're leaving because they are not good reasons, right? So when you leave, don't worry about the drama that follows because it's gonna follow. Abazalwane, they're gonna make you feel like the worst sinner or like this bad person for leaving a church. But this is my journey with Christ. This is my growth. This is my relationship with Christ. And I know where I want to see myself. I know when I'm growing. I know when the church no longer benefits me. I know when the church no longer preaches what I agree with. I know when the church now goes a direction that and this doesn't mean this church does not come from God. Oh, they're now a demonic church. No, it just means it's no longer benefiting me personally. It's no longer benefiting my relationship with Christ. It's no longer serving me. I'm no longer getting anything in the church. Therefore, I have a right to leave that church. But wow, abazalwane, they will make you feel like, there's something wrong that you have done. And it's just like, but guys, if you really loved me as umzalwane, if you really loved me as abantwana bakaNkulunkulu, why are you now having attitude when I've left the church? Because if we bump into each other at town, we should still say hi, because singabantwana bakaNkulunkulu sonke. But people, it's like we love each other with conditional love. We only love you because you are here. Faith. Once you leave faith, we are no longer concerned about you. We don't care. And it's just like it's strange, but as much as all those things followed, and like I was saying, I've heard names like you are a spiritual street kid when you leave a church. I've heard names of saying you are controlegi, you're rebellious, all these names that you will get when you leave a church. But I promise you that should not stop you from leaving a church. This is not a cult. This is not a cult. I can leave. For the fact that I came into this church and no one asked me to come in here. I decided to commit myself into this church. I decided to really, really fully be a member in this church. No one forced me. And ngazibengisuka before I came in here. Ngazizela. Therefore, I can also leave. So let's stop this thing. Let's stop this thing of this drama. Yokuthi umzala masahambile senimenza ke ngathi devil worshipper, wena noSathane, why did you leave this amazing church? Yeah, it's amazing to you, but it was no longer serving me, and I have all the rights to leave this church. So I want you, when you're watching this video, I want to encourage you to say, if you feel like you no longer feel at home, if you feel like this church no longer serves you, if you feel like you're no longer growing in this church, you have the right to leave. This is your relationship with Christ. This is your salvation. You get to choose what you want to do with this relationship you have with Christ. It is up to you. Every decision that you take will affect your spiritual growth. If you choose to stay in that church, but you know for a fact you're no longer growing, you know for a fact this church has hurt you, you know for a fact the sermons are no longer uplifting, they're no longer helping you, why are you staying in that church? This is your salvation. You can't blame anyone else. It is up to you to take the decision to say, you know what, I don't want to be Mzolan that only stays in one position for the next 5 years. I want to grow. I want to see my prayer life grow. I want to see my faith grow. I want to see me reading the word grow. I want to see every part of me growing because of the church, because of the sermons I'm getting in this church, because of the love I'm getting in this church. But if you don't find those things in this church, you can leave. That's all I've come here to say. You can live. It's within your rights. You can leave. I know this fear of saying, oh, but manghamba, what is going to happen? You can live. You can. We have so many different churches for that reason. Ibandla, that is, if when asathola usizo ukhona omunye ongathola usizo in that church, you can go and search for another church that will help you. Because this thing of people who stay in the same church for like 20 years, but whenever they say, okay, maybe please no more share, it's like umama umdala, like umama umdala. It's like, it's shocking to me that you're not realizing that this church is not serving you. I mean, you've been here for 20 years. You've been here for 20 years. But when you are given an opportunity to share, you share like a 10-year-old. Why are you still in that church? Clearly, it's not helping you. It's either stubborn or the church is just not helping you. Because for me, it's very concerning for people who stay in churches for the sake of staying. It's concerning for people who stay in the church for the sake of usabukuzondwa, or for the sake of usabukuhleja, for the sake of usabukuthi how umfundisi is going to fit. I'm not in a church to make my pastor happy. I'm in that church to grow. I want to grow. This is why I'm in this church. This is why that's because we benefit from each other's faith. We benefit from each other's wisdom. We help each other. So if I'm no longer being helped, why am I staying? Like, it's concerning for people who brag about being in the same church for 30 years, for 25 years, for 15 years, but the growth is non-existent. You have a conversation with them about a call, and you're like, do you even know the Bible? Do you even know this God that you are talking about? But you are here busy bragging about being in a church for 15 years. What are you benefiting from that? What are you benefiting from that? Uzatu NJ Bonomasond. Like, you are that person that says it's sonto lam. But are you being helped? Yes, it's sonto lakho. Is this church helping you? Is this church helping your relationship with Christ? So I don't know, but you have these people who just brag about being in the same church for so many years, but their growth is, you're like, okay. Like, and you're like, but loud, yeah. I've been in my church for 15 years. That is not beneficial to you. At least if you're saying I've been in my church for 15 years, but this is what I've benefited. But people who brag about being in the same church for so many years, but their growth is literally non-existent. It's just like, why are you even bragging about this? What is the reason for you to stay in that church? Whether you are pleasing the pastor or you are pleasing Abazalwan, or because you hold a position. These are not reasons to stay in a church. These are not even reasons to commit to a church. I'm just committed to this church because I love the pastor. That's not a reason. I'm committed to this church because they gave me a position. That's not a reason. I'm committed to this church because my mother was in this church before she passed on, or my dad my grandmother. That is not a reason to commit to a church. You commit to a church because you want to grow. You commit to a church because you have found a family. You commit to a church because what is being preached there is helping you. You commit to a church because what is being preached there is what agrees with your spirit. If you are committed to a church, you need to see change. You need to see yourself growing. You need to see yourself saying, I used to struggle with this, but I no longer struggle with this because of the teachings of this house, because of the preachings of this house. Why? Why are you bragging about having 15 years in the same church, but you still do the same things? You still behave the same way. You still have the same attitude. You still have the same small faith. You're still lacking in prayer. You're still the same person, but you are very proud of the 15 years you've served in this church. You can live. You can live, and you don't need to explain to anyone, unless you're in a position you kind of need to say that I'm leaving. But Nakona, you can say, no, I would love to say my reasons, but I'd love to step down from this position and leave. And live. Like, people stay in churches and you're like, why are you there? And also, you know that it's your time to go from the church when you constantly complain about it. You know, with your now I need to go. When you constantly complain about the pastor, about how abazalwane are treating you, when you constantly complain that this is happening, it's your cue to leave. Guys, a church is supposed to be really, really helping you. If you are in a church that no longer serves you, you have nothing against that church, but you have to leave. You have to leave. This is not about pleasing anyone. Yes, it is very, very difficult to leave the church. And also, like I said, they're going to make you feel bad about yourself for leaving this church. But this is your relationship with God. This is your salvation. This is your growth. All these things matter more than your pastor. All these things matter more than your church. All these things matter more than the energy and the effort that you've put in this church. This is about you and your spiritual growth. You can live. You must live. Like, that's all I wanted to say. But like, it concerns me. It really does concern me to have people who brag about 15 years serving the same church, but there's no growth. And it concerns me that you don't even see that. And like, I think that's a bigger problem. That you personally don't see that, yes, I've been in the church for 15 years, but I haven't grown. Like, you still have the same attitude. Yeah, you still do the same things. But you've been in this church for 15 years. What is this church doing in your life? What are the teachings in this church doing to your life? So, yeah. And also, I did want to say to people that make us feel bad for leaving certain churches, like, stop it. You need to grow up. You need to act like umzalwane. Because I can't stay in a church because you will make me feel bad about myself. Because Amazon, they will make sure they go out of the way to make you feel like the worst person because you left together. That's being childish because you don't know my reasons. You don't know my reasons. You need to respect me and respect my decision for leaving that church. In fact, you need to even say kudos to you if that will help you. Because at the end of the day, Ndesifunala is to meet Christ, to spend eternity with Christ. So anything that will help me to get there, I'm going to do. Anything that is beneficial to my eternity with Christ, I'm going to do. Even if it's leaving the church that I've committed myself for 15 years, I'm going to do it. Because the goal is not to please my pastor. The goal is not to please Abazalwane. The goal is to make sure I spend eternity with Christ. The goal is to make sure I live according to God's will. So if I'm no longer getting that in that church, if because of the things that are happening, because of the hurts that I'm getting, or because of the teachings that are not beneficial to me, I'm going to leave. And you guys need to respect that. We need to respect that. Like uthola umuntu omdala, like umama wasebandleni. Umama nje oyitshela ukuthi uyakholwa umama right, but because you've left this church, senidibane ntando mama ushaya ngathi angasakwazi, and it's like, really? Like umdala for this. Kunanje uthi umntana omusha siyaphila saphila, hayibo sowukhonza apha, hayi mama sekungabhayi, siyabonga sis. Umama sone beef, ubona ukuthi hayibo sengine beef na mama sibiya just because I've left the church besonta kulo soyi2. Come on guys, like we need to act better. People need to know that it's okay to leave. It's okay. It's really okay. It's not a big deal. You can live. It's okay. Like, it's not a big deal. This is between them and God. Like, this is not a cult. Like, it's okay to leave. But I still have the right to leave. I still have the right to leave. And like I said, the only person who might, now it's a big might, who might have a reason to feel some type of way is Mfundisi. Now, if he does want to ask, Sisi, what was the problem? Now, it's up to me to want to say. But umzalwane, also simply because no, come on, we need to do better. You need to do better. But if you are staying in a church that no longer serves you, if you are staying in a church, I'm no longer getting anything. There's nothing wrong with the church. You personally are no longer getting anything. Leave. Leave. Akusizukuhlala uhlalele into engekho but awusasizakala. Hamba ngesizulu. Go. Leave. Thank you so much for watching. I love you so very much for watching. Don't forget to comment, like, share, and subscribe, guys. This is very, very important. Comment down below, what is your take? Have you left a church before? Did you feel some type of way? How did Allah treat you when you've left that church? Are you scared to leave that church? What are the reasons that make you be scared to leave that church? Comment down below, let me know. Let's have a conversation about it. Thank you so much for watching. Jesus loves you more. I'll see you next time on my next video. Bye.